Howdy, guys. A good Monday morning to y'all. It is night 33 inside the Big Brother All-Star House, and this is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Hope y'all are doing fantastic. Uh, this morning, at some point, we're going to have the veto ceremony, and as the house guests got ready for that, we had quite some conversations and some occurrences last night that I truly wasn't expecting. It was a fun night for the most part to watch feed, so we're going to try to cover it all. We'll get right into it, but yeah, it was kind of a fun night. All right, so what's going on? First of all, just as a little bit of a refresher, remember that on Saturday we had or Friday we had the BB basement competition. We already know that Danny and Christmas won a power. We didn't know who won the third power. Well, now we know, thanks to the episode they showed tonight on CBS. The winner of the third power is, drumroll, David Alexander, my fellow Big Brother 21 house guest. He won it, and it is quite the power. It's called Disruptor Power. Basically, he can save someone from nomination, force the HOH to put someone new on the block. And yes, that can be David himself or someone else. It's good for the next 3 weeks. He didn't use it on the last nomination, but he still has 2 weeks. So basically, if David is put on the block, he can pull himself off. Now, I don't think it applies for renominations if a veto is used, but in terms of the initial nominations, David's golden for a few weeks. So congratulations to Mr. Alexander. I'm glad to see he won something, and he was so excited. So now we'll see what kind of effect it has going forward. All right, some conversations going on in the house. One of them, this is Enzo and David. I think it was in the the photo room. David is saying that they're talking about Bailey versus Davon and both of them on the block, who they may want to keep and such. David is saying, yeah, Bailey can get a little bit emotional. And Enzo says, yeah, that's true. He said, I think the whole house wants Bailey to stay. He says, but I really want Davon. I really want Bailey to stay. And David, I think David does as well. So both of them would prefer to see Bailey stay, even though Davon, they think, is probably more likely to get house support. David is talking about how do we flip the house to make this happen. And so that's obviously on their minds, see if they can figure something out. Then we get into some fun conversations. All right, we'll get right into it. This is great, guys. All right, in the have not room, Bailey and Davon are up there. Tyler walks in, and he's very emotional. In fact, he starts crying after a little while. He basically says, "Look, guys, I gotta get some stuff off my chest." He starts apologizing to them for talking bad about them, for hurting their game and playing the role he did, and them both being on the block at this point. Tyler tells him, he says, I know that y'all are playing, y'all are on the show for a greater purpose, Davon. I know that you've got a child, and that y'all are here for a greater purpose than I am, and I feel like y'all deserve to stay over me. And he says, as a result, I'm going to ask Christmas to use the veto that she won and on Saturday, and that I'm going to ask her to use it, take one of y'all off the block and put me up instead, and I'm going to ask everyone to send me home. Really? You weren't expecting that, were you? No, I wasn't. Well, all right, so he seems very serious about it as well. Bailey and Davon are like, wow, no one's ever done that for us before. That's amazing. Thank you. So it's quite the conversation, isn't it? All right, so then at the same time that's happening in the HOH room, Christmas and Danny are talking. They are very worried about Tyler and Davon and Bailey in the have not room talking. Danny is saying, he better not be talking stuff about me. He better not be talking bad about me. I've been nicer to him than anyone else in the house, so he just better not be doing it. She doesn't know what he's really talking about, does she? Danny is telling Christmas, saying, now look, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything, because I don't want Tyler to know that I'm mad at him, but he better not be talking bad about me in there. She also says, if this is a double eviction coming up on Thursday, I want Tyler out. I'm tired of it. Tyler has to go. So she's very much at odds with him. Meanwhile, Tyler is falling on the sword, alleged or supposedly to take care of Bailey and Davon. So very interesting conversations taking place at this point in time. Have not room just a little bit later. Tyler has left the room. Bailey and Davon are talking at this point. Bailey is saying that, hey, after hearing that, if Christmas doesn't put Tyler up, then we need to hold a house meeting. If after hearing this, she doesn't put Tyler up, then that shows that we are actually targets. We're not just because we were the odd man out kind of thing. That means someone is specifically targeting us. And she says, if Christmas does not put Tyler up, we need to hold a house meeting. We're going to call Christmas out. We're going to make sure everyone knows who she's working with. So they are expecting Tyler to offer this. They're expecting Christmas to take him up on the offer. And suddenly they could both be staying in the house as a result of it. Bailey is wondering, however, she's saying, is Tyler just doing this to look good on TV and nothing will ever come of it? She won't really, the veto won't get used, so he'll have an excuse for why he didn't go home. And it's just all for TV and popularity and all that. Yeah, I kind of thought that for a second myself, but yeah, that very well may not be the case. It is interesting, a little point. Bailey is talking as well, and she says, hey, I've been watching who got called into the diary room today, and based on who got called in, I saw David get called in. I think David has the third power. She's right. And she figured it out supposedly just because she was watching who got called in the diary room, figuring out what could they possibly be talking to him about. So thumbs up to Bailey for paying attention. She called it right. David does indeed have third power. All right, so we have that conversation. A lot of stuff tonight involves Tyler's falling on the sword scenario and some others. So in the HOH room now, Tyler and Christmas are talking. After having a conversation with Bailey and Davon, Tyler goes into Christmas and says, look, I want to come clean. I haven't been as forthcoming to you as I should, and I'm sorry, but here's the thing. I think that I'm the reason that Bailey and Davon are on the block. I think it's because he told Bailey and Davon that Danny was after him, and all this stuff got stirred up. And so he tells her that, and then all of a sudden the feed's cut. Really? Oh, come on. No, you can't cut the feeds at this point, but they do. So we lose some of the rest of the conversation. But it certainly started off very interesting, didn't it? All right, so another conversation. This is in the photo room with Danny and Nicole. Danny is very worried. They know that Tyler's been up in the HOH room for 2 hours now. We haven't seen most of it, but they've been up there. She thinks that Tyler might really be pushing for a backdoor of Danny. So she's incredibly nervous. She's also worried that Tyler might have a power just because of the way he's been acting, or he's trying to swing something that they just can't figure out what it is. Nicole says he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't backdoor. But then she says, but what's he doing up there for 2 hours? Is he trying to convince her to save Bailey instead of Davon? So they don't have a clue what's going on just yet. Danny is saying, hey, if I need to, if he tries to do something like that, if he tries to backdoor me, I'm going to call him out. I'm going to call him out. She says, everyone wanted out Bailey and Davon. He's not pinning it all on me. The words house meeting is mentioned, so a couple of people are threatening some house meetings. Oh, it's gotten good. All right. Nicole wants to get Cody to go upstairs and break up that meeting. They're both nervous at this point in time. Eventually, she goes up and uses the excuse of wanting Christmas to play cornhole just to see if she can break it up, see what they're doing. Eventually, Nicole tells Danny, she comes back, tells Danny that Christmas looked very spooked when she walked inside the room. Danny says it's obvious something's going down, and Tyler is certain that Tyler is throwing her hard right now. So they're worried. Suddenly the game doesn't seem quite as secure as it did just a little while ago for those two. In the photo room, Tyler, right after that, Tyler comes in. Nicole is left. Danny is still there. Tyler comes in for a change of clothes. He looks over at Danny and says, hey. She doesn't say a word. Ooh, you can see the chill in the air. It's quite obvious. Very awkward. So then he leaves. Another conversation outside the HOH room. Davon and Bailey, they're doing a little dance just for a little while. Obviously, they're thinking there might be a chance for both of them to survive this week, which earlier we didn't think was going to happen. In the storage room, Christmas and Davon are talking. Davon is saying that if she's on the block next to Davon's saying if she's on the block next to Bailey, she's going to go home. Nah, I don't think she is. And Christmas says, you may have more votes than you think. But she also says, look, I'm not really talking to anyone until after the veto ceremony is over. She tries to kind of not get too involved. At this point, Christmas tells Davon, says, I was really thrown for a loop. If Tyler goes up, I'm not sure who stays. And as Christmas walks out the door, you see for just a second before the feed switch to another camera, Bailey kind of pointing at the camera and looks like she's incredibly excited, as I would be as well. All right, another conversation, HOH room, Christmas, Christmas, Danny, Cole, and Davon. So basically the women except for Bailey. A new alliance is formed, guys. A girls' alliance for the first 4 women who went into the house, that first group. They've decided to come together and work together. Uh, Christmas is saying that that Davon can stay, but she didn't want to give any direction, input, guidance, or anything until after the veto meeting. Christmas also says, now this was interesting, after the conversation with Tyler and everything, Christmas says, if both girls are still on the block, Davon's the one that needs to stay. So at least in front of everyone else, Christmas is not bought into the plan completely, but Danny and Nicole are in there and don't know about it yet. So it could just be for the benefit of those two that Christmas isn't talking anything about Tyler. So it is interesting that she used the word if. Uh, they agreed that they need a hierarchy of eviction order for everyone else. No, I disagree with that completely. Not everyone's going to have the same order of evictions, and you're just going to create friction if you do that. Just agree on the alliance and deal with the other stuff later. Boss hog kind of comment there. All right, they want to create an alliance name. Davon says that isn't her lane. Yay, Davon. I never liked Alliance's name, so congrats to you for trying to resist. But they're going to do one anyway. That's just the way it is. Nicole mentions the Garbage Pail Kids. Everyone's like, yeah. I heard the honey badgers, koalas, koala killers, tiger queens, a bunch of them are mentioned. Eventually, the blitz or the blitzing bombshells seems to be kind of the decision, but they'll figure it out later. Davon leaves. As soon as she does, Christmas says that he thinks that Davon thinks that Bailey hurt her game, so maybe they aren't quite as tight as they were, and that's in reference to Bailey saying that Davon was her untouchable. At one point, at the very end, Christmas asked the others, or is asked if she wants to bring Davon into the Commission Alliance. She said, no, she's a friendly, but we're not going to bring her in right now. All right, so another conversation. This is in the love room between Christmas and Davon. So repeat of some of the storage room stuff. Christmas is saying again, she doesn't know what happened if Tyler goes up. Davon says, no, if he goes up, I've got the votes to get him out. I've got it. And so she's very certain of that. Christmas is saying that Danny and Nicole don't know about Tyler's request yet. So again, the conversation upstairs, they didn't know about it. Christmas is worried though about Bailey coming for her if she stays in the house. And Davon says, no, Tyler's who Bailey's going after. That's who she wants out the door. I'll take care of Bailey. You don't have to worry about her. She's good. Just save us and Willow, you're good. Meanwhile, Davon asks about bringing Bailey into the Girls Alliance, but Christmas says, I want to wait and talk to the other girl. Another conversation in the bathroom. Danny and Tyler are talking. Danny's talking about, Danny's talking about Tyler and Christmas were talking. I think that was Danny and Nicole are talking. Sorry, or I actually don't know at this point. But Danny's talking to the bathroom saying, man, Tyler and Christmas were talking for 2 hours. She's still very worried. A little bit later, Davon and Kevin are talking in the bathroom. Kevin worries that Davon doesn't really trust him. She's not giving them everything. She mentions to him her talk with Christmas about using the veto, and he's taking more credit than is really deserved. She doesn't mention that Tyler had the original idea. She's kind of telling Kevin that she came up with this great idea and it's all going to work. 80% certain it's going to work. So there you go. In the storage room, Bailey and Davon are talking. Davon's talking about the conversation with Christmas and her using her veto. She says, hey, Bailey, Christmas is worried the rest of the house will be upset if she uses a veto. And Davon also tells Bailey that a few people want you out. So we're going to have to see what we can do. Davon also says that Christmas is linked to Danny and Nicole, but she's feeling like the third wheel. And so she thinks that she can get in with Christmas and create another duo of some sort. Christmas is also worried, as she talked about, that Bailey's going to come after her, but Davon says, nah, I told her I'd take care of you. You don't have to worry about that. But she also says, hey, if I come off the block and you survive Thursday, all bets are off. It's a whole new game. So Davon, this isn't a long-term commitment on her part. Bailey is wanting her to stay tight with Christmas, though, because she knows that she's tight with Danny also. Final conversation of the evening that I was watching. In the bathroom, Kevin and Davon are still talking. Davon thinks that Nicole will be okay with using the veto because it's one more person away from Cody. I think she's talking about if Tyler is evicted, but maybe not. But she thinks Nicole will be okay. Kevin is digging for info. Eventually, the talk turns to the Girls Alliance, and Davon eventually confirms it and says, yeah, Bailey will be brought in as a fifth. You'll be brought in for the sixth for now. But things will change. Once we get to that last 6 or 7, we're going to upset things as well. So quite the conversation, guy. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow at the veto ceremony. It's going to be amazing. Y'all have a great Monday. We'll talk to you in 24 hours. SKD 143. Cheers, guys. Bye. Cliff Notes tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, only on the TV Co app. Cheers, guys.